Hey everyone, thanks for joining. This is Crypto Vatsik. If you like this content, please like and subscribe to the channel, and nothing of what you're about to see is considered financial advice. These are my opinions only. Okay guys, so for this video I wanted to take a closer look at Bitcoin and Ethereum. And the reason for this is that when the altcoin market moves in sync with Bitcoin, they act as a good market indicator to the general direction and potential reversals. So many altcoins look so similar right now that even if some of them had a midweek pump or a midday pump, many of them often revert back to the mean and continue with the market pretty quickly after. So it's good to go back to these two assets and evaluate where we could see potential market bottoms or macro bottoms, and otherwise continuation of what we're seeing, which is significant selling in a bear market. So it'll be a telling sign for the majority of the rest of the crypto market. So I always like to go back to these two, which I'm sure many of you do as well. I won't go into equities or traditional market systems simply because for me that gets into the bigger picture stuff and longer conversations that involve politics and economies and what's going on in the world. That would just take this video down a rabbit hole. So I like to stick to the analysis, what the charts are telling us, and no matter what goes on in the world around it, the chart can speak to you, and it gives us signs for what could come. So I like to play it level by level, objectively, and it's really all we can do now as traders, and just see what's going on around it. We can try and listen to what's going on around the crypto market, take that into consideration, but always sticking to a solid analysis and remaining flexible with our bias. We each have our bias, but remaining flexible day by day as to what price could do in the short and long term. So. Okay, so just getting right into it, guys, this is a Ethereum USD chart. So when I talk about levels, really I just look at previous points of interest that were levels to look for, that have either been taken out or are currently intact. And so what I mean by that is basically just key points in price where it had some significant reaction previously, and those would have been at previous points. Those would have been targets or levels to look for to determine the direction in the price or the reaction to that level. So of course we've taken out these major levels in this price, and where I've drawn these levels from is just basically previous interaction points with price where it's either been significant resistance or significant support, and then you just draw it down, you keep going down as price moves. So the next level here was drawn from this area of bullish consolidation that we had in this green box back in January last year, sorry, and basically that was acting as resistance at the time. And you can go back. This is due to the fact that this was the previous all-time high on Ethereum, around $1,400, and it was a bit of a psychological point at this point here in January, just due to the fact that it was the previous all-time high. So you can see we had some really strong bullish consolidation right underneath it until we eventually broke up, and then once you break through that resistance level, it's called an SR flip. So basically we had that turned into support and a nice wick and bounce reaction off of that previous resistance, which is now support at that point, for a little bit of a larger consolidation point or range between this area, between this high and between this low, until again breaking out to the upside. So these levels at this point have been basically taken out and will act as resistance now. So all we can do is continue down to the next levels that we'd want to look for. And so basically I've drawn out a couple areas. So the bottom of this consolidation point here, which we already saw as support, it did react, it wicked down here on June 18th and bounced off as support. And there's also a bit of another significant level that I drew from back here. This basically, this is the previous high during the bear market correction that we had, and it's basically the correctional high during this bear market. But I think it would still act as a technical level of support, and it's very close to this level here, which is about $925, 900, just above $900. So that's what I'm looking at really closely right now is these couple areas, and basically below that, there's not much left, but we basically have the high of this first impulse move that broke basically the overall downtrend of lower lows and lower highs, which eventually broke. And this was our first major impulse that we had on Ethereum that continued up to the rest of the bull market. So basically, that's what I'm looking for right now. And these these levels are in play at this point, and we have to consider them. And then when we do reverse it at some point, we have to consider them as resistance if we've broken down below them. So that's why these ones are dotted up above. And so that's kind of my thought right now on this piece. And we can see with Bitcoin, very similar structure. Wrong chart. Very similar structure. We had basically the previous all-time high psychological point, but also this period of consolidation that we had, and it's still bouncing it as support. It's kind of entered that initial buy zone that I've had, but I'd like to see how it reacts in the coming week or so. But again, we're still above this first week wave one impulse, which we had down here around 13,000. So as long as we stay above that, it's considered bullish. And yes, it's a steep correction, but as long as we stay above this first wave one peak, it's considered bullish in my opinion still. So I think it'll be really telling in the coming weeks of what's going to happen. But I think this is why we need to come back to these two major assets and really just dive into it further and draw these levels out and play it day by day. So a couple different scenarios here that I'm seeing with Bitcoin and Ethereum is basically three different scenarios. So the first one being that we would come down here and make another low and basically have a double bottom pattern where we reverse up and we start to test these resistance levels pretty quickly. And so you could call it double bottom or just basically another sweep of the low. But basically the idea is that we get one more significant dip, which we're already seeing kind of right now as we speak. And then the key point later will be if we do get this reversal up into resistance, of course it won't likely won't just smash through it. So we'll probably start to see again some sort of retracement and a higher low form. So the key area would be in this area. I'll be watching carefully of if we're able to hold this and hold some strength in the market and continue up, or basically is this going to break down and are we heading back down to the lows and probably further after that. So what I'd really like to see is basically in this scenario, I'd like to see this. So basically sweep of the lows and possibly even a lower low, just due to the fact that if we had that, we could probably see a bullish divergence on RSI. So if bullish divergence came down, RSI came down here, made some sort of higher low, and we made a lower low in price, we'd get a nice bullish divergence and basically confirm that the bottom for the macro sense is in. And then I would love to see some significant strength and come back up here. And then again, the key point being is that retest of either this resistance or if we did come up here of this resistance up here. So basically turning it into support and then moving back up basically would be what I would be looking for. The second scenario is essentially if we get a longer accumulation range. So if we start to, we're already kind of dying out in strength here. We've got this channel forming. And if we start to have a longer accumulation point where it just takes time in the market to settle and we hold these levels here as support, and then eventually getting some strength and confidence back in the market to take on these resistance levels would be another scenario that I'm seeing. I just don't know how likely that is. Just it seems like it wants to come down a little bit further. The selling's not done, and that's just kind of my personal thought. But that would be a longer time horizon in this case. Is we'd be looking further into the year if this were the case. Whereas if we got the previous scenario A that I had said, with a strong reaction, maybe a lower low, and then significant buyback pressure. This would be, I think expedited in a sense where we could see that higher low form and then reversal in the market. So that's kind of the second scenario. And again, it still depends on these levels here again, so they don't just disappear once you've broken through them. They'll act as resistance. So that's the key point is later is when I'm going to be really looking closely after we do see a bounce, or if we just kind of hover here and eventually do go up. Again, same thing, just longer time horizon, those key areas of the retest and holding that support level. So basically, C would be a scenario where essentially, basically we lose these levels as well, and we come back further down to the basically a full retracement almost to the point of the first impulse wave, where I mean, it's possible. It's an unpredictable market at this point, and that could happen again. We got to go back to Bitcoin, and I think that's the key is we do have some more room to come down and play in this area, and I think we're kind of already entering that previous consolidation level that we had seen on Ethereum and Bitcoin back here in November on Bitcoin, and it's reacting in this area. So this is potentially a key pivot point. But again, even if we saw buyback like this, I wouldn't just assume the bottom's in. The key area for me would be right around here where we retest this, and then ideally see some strength back in the market. So that's kind of my thought right now. These macro bottoms are not easy to find, and I think that you really see significant strength in the market when you find these macro bottoms. You can see these buybacks previously when we had this macro bottom back in July, and you saw these huge green candles coming up, right? So you could tell the appetite was there for the buyback, and you get a low, and you get almost an immediate buyback pressure. So you don't see it kind of doing this and then slowly kind of grinding. That to me, that just screams bearish consolidation. Whereas if you see kind of the low and some significant buyback, then you could safely assume that we might have a reversal. So that's kind of what I'm seeing for now. Again, I want to see some significant strength in this area, but for me, the key point will be coming a little bit later. I do think we might be making a new low here at some point, but again, be watching for possible RSI divergences, and once something has formed, I want to see continued strength. I don't want to see a range like this. I want to see clear buyback pressure and start testing those resistance levels a lot quicker up here. And there's no denying we're in a downtrend. We're definitely not out of it yet. If you were shorting this, you could inverse the chart. This is a strong move. It has not broken its structure. Again, it's retesting these highs. Moving averages are reacting very nicely. So it just, to me, it doesn't scream that it's done yet. And it's the first time kind of where there's been so much contention, I think, in the market, where people are just so undecided if it's an extended bear market, or if this is just a correction. And whereas people always think that it's going to be an obvious turn of events when we come into a bear market, like it was back in 2017, and you had your clear peak and downfall after that. But it's an interesting one. I think we're getting to an interesting point here where that's going to be answered, right? So we're definitely getting to a point where we're going to see some relief, in my opinion, where this has just gone such a strong move, such a almost a parabolic move, basically, maybe with a little bit less, with a little bit left in it, but we'll definitely be seeing some sort of relief in the near future. The question is just how does it react after that if we retest these levels, and if we can get that strength back. So that's kind of my thoughts for now, guys. Thanks for joining. Hopefully this was helpful. Again, if you like this content, please subscribe to the channel and give me a like, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.